What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the
Hey.
Men the World podcast. I am Cece Jones Davis here with my beautiful, brilliant, sassy co-host Malika McKinley Cox. Hey, Malika,
Hey, Cece, how are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, listen, we just had the most amazing conversation with
Yes.
the Carlos Rodriguez, founder of Happy Givers, and wow, I'm so excited for people to hear.
It was amazing. And yeah, I just feel so inspired that I want to go out and start being really more intentional about like my neighbors and community. What did you think, Cece?
Exactly. He just talked in such a way that made me come away knowing that hope is starts locally, right?
Love it.
And that's something we can wrap our hands around, our arms around in a time like this when the crisis and the problems seem so big and are so big. We can do something right here locally. You guys, without further ado, listen to our friend, our bud, Carlos Rodriguez is gonna bless your life today. Listen in.
Yep. Okay, great. Let's go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Men the World podcast. I am your co host, Reverend Cece Jones Davis, and I'm here with the incomparable Malika McKinley Cox. How are you, Malika?
Hi, y'all. I'm great. 'Cause I get to see one of my favorite people in the whole world today, actually, two. You both are two of my favorite people in the whole world. So
That's
I'm
sweet.
really excited about today's episode.
Yeah. Listen, all we have none other than Carlos Rodriguez with us. And y'all don't know, y'all might not know, some of you may, but some of you may not know what a big deal this is. Carlos
Big
is
deal.
a huge deal. I don't know, Carlos, we met. And Malika and I met we met, probably 2019 or 2018 or something like that
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Oklahoma, right, Malika?
Yeah, it was through Jonathan Martin.
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
When we're all doing the table together.
that's
Carlos,
right.
Carlos has an incredible, faith story. He has an incredible social witness. He's one of the most, loving, one of the smartest, one of the most
Get
passionate
out of here.
leaders that you will
That's
ever hear
sweet.
from. I'm telling you, I
Absolutely.
heard a sermon. Malika, do you remember when he preached at the table? I heard a sermon that he preached that literally had me bent over in my
It radically changed my life, and I remember, like, talking about the difference between righteousness in English and Spanish and how that
yes,
word was justice and how
Stacia, that's right.
yes, and how it was like this whole kind of idea of this imposed individual morality is not what Jesus was talking about, and I was like, that was very freeing after,
Mm.
all those years. So, yes, I mean, that and not to mention, the last time I saw you was in November. I heard you preach then, and it was incredible. And then just like life, just like as a human being, you know what I mean? Just a good, amazing person.
we love you
Thank
so
You
you.
much.
guys are
Thank you for
so
being here. We love
wonderful.
Welcome
I
to the
feel the love and I really appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are doing this. We need more of this. We need to mend, we need to hope, and we need friends that just encourage each other. So I'm just from the get-go gonna say thank you for those words. In a bizarre way, all these platforms were open for me and preaching and Twitter and all that. And what was right for me was to get even smaller, to focus even more on my local community, to not try to be everywhere for everybody all at once, but to just be for the most marginalized where I was born and raised. And so I get to do this here in Puerto Rico in Vega Baja, Bunny Town. So,
Mm.
um, and I get
Amazing.
to do it with beautiful people like you. And so thank you for having me. And yeah, let's just go for it.
Okay. So excited. So, what's up? Like the last time we talked was weirdly enough November of 2024. Like nothing big happened maybe in
No,
November of 2024. It
no.
did actually, one of the conversations we can go into later that we had kind of radically changed my, trajectory. Yeah,
Mm.
so November 2024, something happened, and I haven't seen you since, so what's been going on?
Well, I wrote something for somebody about the election and how we're here in Puerto Rico and we can't vote for the president, even though we're American citizens. So we can go into all the details about being second class citizens, disenfranchised, no
Mhm.
representation in Congress, all that
Mhm.
sort of stuff. But it felt in the most, and I'm sorry, visceral, kind of unfortunate way. It's like, here's this dude imposing himself on us once again. And that's his trajectory. That's what he's done. And he should be in prison for imposing himself on women's
Yeah,
bodies. And he should be in prison for
absolutely.
imposing himself in so many ways. And so there's those feelings, right, of like, well, of course it happened again. There's that feeling. And then there's also the feeling of like, get off of me. You're definitely not going to control my narrative. You're not going to control the next 4 years of my life, of the life of my community. And we can have really direct conversations about how the policies of the Trump administration are affecting us this way, this way, this way. And at the same time, let's not even talk about it. Let's go farming. Let's go build. Let's go mend. And so there's that constant tension of how do we address these very real things that are affecting so many people. And I don't want to be blasé about it. And yet at the same time, his persona is not going to be imposed in my feelings, my emotions, how I relate to my family, and how I engage with my community. And so I'm constantly, to say how I've been feeling since the election, it's this constant like,
Yeah.
forget about it. Let's just do the work. And then sometimes it's like, no, this needs to be addressed. This is ungodly. This is evil. This is
Yeah.
demonic. This is destructive. Let's address it. And so we're living in this, back and forth.
Yeah,
Tension,
I think
yeah.
I think so many of us can identify with that, right? And I love what you said about you're not going to let his evilness, his personality, his persona be imposed upon you. Man,
Mm-mm.
those of us here on Turtle Island, we are beside ourselves on a daily basis
Hmm.
because of I guess his proximity. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and um it's been really, really hard to kind of compartmentalize. But
Mm.
you talked about demons, Carlos, and so that reminded me that you are a Pentecostal, and you have quite
Obviously, it's been
and
3 minutes and I mentioned demons.
right, and you have quite the faith story, the faith
Yes, you
journey,
do.
and so because me and Malika have our own unique faith stories and spirituality stories, I really want people to hear from you about kind of your journey.
Well, there's this thing, part of the imposing, especially of Christian nationalism, because I think in this second run of his administration, the language has been more, even the decision to invade Iran is more like all these Christian nationalist language. I think more than the first
Mhm.
time around. And so there's also that, wait, they've taken over this message that transformed my life. Wait, now they rule this name, Jesus, that used to represent so much hope and life, that drove me specifically in a very personal way to leave the hypocrisy of the platform of saying all these right things and not actually doing it, to like
Mhm.
surrender my life to actually like, okay, if Jesus said it is better to give than to receive, well, let's give more than we're trying to take. If Jesus said to actually serving the least of these is serving him, then do, I find God the most when I am serving the least of these. And then I
Yeah,
realize, wait a minute, who decided they're the least of these? And let's destroy those system that is making them the
Yeah.
least of these. And so
Yeah.
there's been this intention to never surrender this narrative, this story, the gospel, which is meant to be good news to the poor. And the fact that the language of Jesus is very inclusive for all, and yet at the same time is targeted to the most marginalized, to the oppressed, to the blind, to the hurting. And so, how do we rescue? How do we fight against? How do we not let go of that story? Even though, and I think the three of us can admit and realize that it looks very different to how it looked in our younger days, that expression of that spirituality, that following Jesus, however you want to call it. And yet we can't let go because it's a message. I tell people I never find amongst the most marginalized people in our community who were serving till death, bringing dignity into spaces of abject poverty. I never find anybody there that's rejecting the message of Jesus, the
Right.
love, the welcoming, the kingdom of heaven, because there is so much hope. When you have nothing, hoping for this greater being to rescue you, to love you, to take you to heaven for eternity, it's a beautiful message. And to let it go for Christian nationalism, for rule and imposition, and for rapists to be the ones that control that name, it's like, no, I'm not. I'm not letting go. I'm not quitting on that message. And so again, here's another part of the tension of feeling like my old spirituality. That's the one that was empowering of Trump. And yet there's so much in there of the message of Jesus that I can't let go because of what it's done for my life and for our community. Ah, yeah. So we got to talk about demons. Anyways.
It's okay because within the first few minutes before we started, I had mentioned a vision. So, I mean, we
Yeah,
are who we
yeah,
are.
yeah. We are who we are.
Um, but I will say this as somebody who has gone through a faith journey, and, I'm still Jesus, Holy
Sure,
Spirit,
sure.
parent. Not
Mhm.
necessarily I'm concerned
Yeah,
about male or female, but parent, Jesus
yeah,
the Spirit.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to let go a lot around the other parts of that, and I will say, and I wanna say this, and I just remember when I was going through this crisis, I mean, came back, I've talked about this before, from Northern Ireland, and, I came back from Palestine, saw so many human rights violations, came back to this entity that was, the
Mm,
institutional Western American Evangelical Church. And I'm like, what I have these real feelings around,
mm,
the message of justice and care for the oppressed, but I just don't know. And I was like, do I have to be a horrible person to be a Christian? And so
yeah.
that's and I discovered you, Carlos, before, I think I haven't met Jonathan, and I was like, oh my God, you can be like a good person and still be a Christian. And that's the truth. That's real. And it was kind of like, and I watch now, and I met, I'm not even in the United States. I left Turtle Island, and I did so for many reasons. But I still find it hard to escape, particularly with the Epstein files. We don't need to go there, but some of that is so horrific, um, that I'll go down for a couple days, when some of this stuff comes out. And then,
Mm,
you know, obviously Gaza, Sudan,
mm,
Congo,
mm.
everything in Ukraine, in
Yeah.
Lebanon, all of these things. So it's like I do have to go back and forth, but like their language around holy war, their language
Mm,
around crusades, their language around particularly Pete Hegseth, and who was a TV anchor and changing everything to the department. At least the Department of War is what it is. I will give him
mm,
that. It's a
mm,
war department. It's a
mm.
colonizing department. All
Yeah.
of that to say, it is grotesque, I think, also just for them to have taken this message to the point it has. But maybe it had to go there. Maybe for people, like, it's people are turning, and it's like I mean, I've said this before, but I feel like we're in a time where atheists are telling
Mm.
Christian what Jesus said
Yes,
and what
sir.
Jesus
That's exactly where we
what
are.
Jesus meant by what he said.
That's exactly
Like,
where we are.
it's
And
such
I
a
feel
bizarre time.
I've used this language in the past, mostly in private, because I don't want it to be misused, but I'm among friends, so I'll use it again. Even the first Trump administration, there was a gift, and it was the gift of clarity.
Mhm.
Mm.
Because at least I knew, oh, this is what you think about Black people, my white Christian pastor. Oh, this is what you think about migrants. Oh, this is how you want America to treat X, Y, or Z. Oh, shithole nations. That's what you think about the nation where
Mhm.
our daughter comes from. And so there was this definition that happened using that Department of War, the clarity of, at least I have clarity where you stand. Now we can actually have deep and honest conversations. Now I can set some boundaries where I'm not going to cross there. I'm not going to engage with that. I am going to engage with this because it's my place. And so that clarity that came and that continues to come, unfortunately, I think in a bizarre way, it is setting up it's almost like the launching pad for liberation is to have clarity on here are the people who are enabling racist policies to disenfranchise African Americans in this place. We have clarity. How do we fight? How do we mend? How do we hope? How do we join forces with people that might be at least they're on this side of the clarity? And so
Right.
it's been a gift to me. It's been a gift to me in terms of deciding which relationships I'm going to pursue, which partnerships I'm going to join with. And so as painful as it's been, because so many of us have lost family and friends and connections and opportunities, money, resources, the clarity has helped us then to, okay, this is where we're going now.
Yeah. Carlos,
Absolutely.
I have a question. I really want to get your perspective on this. As a Latino
Yeah.
living
Hmm.
in Puerto Rico, we remember how the Trump administration treated Puerto Rico during the first administration when those horrible storms happened and you all were out of electricity for months and months. Your
Yeah.
infrastructure was hit
Yeah.
so hard. And he came and was just a asshole, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember that, and I really wanna get your perspective on the Hispanic slash Latino vote,
Okay.
here on Turtle Island,
Hmm. Hmm.
because, you know, Black folk, let's say Black
Hmm.
person, I've been
Hmm.
really confused by how many Hispanic Latino folks voted for Donald Trump. I'm confused. And I've been told that
Hmm.
there are like these like racist thoughts within like Hispanic and Latino
Big
cultures about
time.
each other, right? And
Big
so
time.
Venezuelans think this, the
Yeah.
Cubans think
Yeah.
this, and so I want to hear what your
Yeah.
feelings are about that.
Thank you for asking. We unfortunately, Latin America, especially the Spanish speaking countries, heavily influenced by the Spanish colonizers who genocide the natives, Latinos, the Tainos. The Taino were the native people here in Puerto Rico in the Caribbean. Um, and, the slave trade from West Africa started through the Spanish, right? Because they've genocide the native people and now they need more workers. So unfortunately, so much of what runs inside of this body is Spanish, West African, and Taino blood, right? So in an island like Puerto Rico, because we're so small, there's a peculiar thing that happens. I learned this in university. There's a peculiar thing that because the distance is so small, it's almost like it was easier where there was integration happening. It was forced integration because of the lack of space. Where if you go to America, it's like, okay, you guys have that reservation over there. And then the Black community will have that other side of the river in OKC. And then the spacing, the magnitude of the space kind of forced that. And so all I'm trying to say is whether I'm Latino, whether my great grandmother was from West Africa, whether I have all this mixed in me, what happens is, and this is not exclusive to Latinos, the immigrant experience into the United States is for me to assimilate here, I need to be whiter than the white
Mhm.
dude that voted for Trump with the pickup truck. And
Right.
so in order for me to be accepted in this place, I need to access that part of me that is the whitest part in me for me to make money here, for me to triumph here, for me to overcome here. And so there's that illusion of whiteness that unfortunately is so appealing to so many Latinos. And so they end up overcompensating and they end up, supporting Trump in Florida in historic numbers in the second go after seeing everything he's said about Latinos, about Mexicans, about Puerto Ricans, the way he treated us. And so it's a really unfortunate thing. It's a deception of belonging. If
Yeah.
for me to belong in this space in Central Florida, I'm going to be the biggest MAGA person. And
Right.
then my cousin's going to be deported, which happened to so many people. So many of our Cuban friends who, I mean, red hats, Latinos for Trump. some of their family members being deported. I'm talking 6 months into the second administration of Trump. And so it's a deception. There's no doubt about it. I wish and I would hope that churches would call it out more, but they don't. And Latino churches, okay, you want to have a Latino church that's successful in America, then you need to act just like the white churches in America for you to get the big building and the lights and the stages and the crowds and the ultimately the money. And
Yeah.
so you access the whitest parts in you, that are literally the rapists from Spain that came to destroy our land and destroy our people and take all our resources, and you end up supporting Trump like they did, and it's just horrific and it's brutal. And of course, I'm overgeneralizing. There's so many wonderful Latino pastors and Christian leaders
Super.
and churches, and
Yeah.
we know they are, but the question is valid because the numbers were dramatic in terms of
Right.
support for Trump, and
Let me
Yeah.
ask you a
I'm
follow-up.
hoping that it doesn't happen again.
Okay, and I
Let
have
me ask you this.
something. Go ahead.
Let me just ask you this follow-up. How are they
Yeah,
doing? You know, those folks that that supported Trump, believed in him, thought he's not talking about us, he's talking about them. He's talking about the Mexicans. He's talking about those
yeah,
people, right? And
yeah.
then their loved ones get deported. How are they doing now? Like, how are they feeling? What are they saying? How are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it in MAGA world itself. The illusion is coming down, right? The eyes are being opened. Even amongst his strongest supporters, they're like, wait a minute, this is not even close to what we voted for. And sometimes um, they're expressive about it, and sometimes they just keep quiet, and you can tell because they stop posting and stop defending compared to before, where they were like, yeah, this is where we stand. I had no doubts Trump was winning that on his third try. It was very clear to me, unfortunately, because of so many of my Latino family members in Florida. I was like, I couldn't
Wow.
believe what I was hearing that I didn't hear on the first go when he won the first time. And so, it's atrocious, it's horrible. I find it so disappointing that people are waking up now, what,
Yeah.
12 years later, 14 years later. And yet, hey, we're going to hold on to this hope. Let's hold on to this hope. And let's hope that the reaction to these horrible, administrations is, it's the pendulum swing. Every generation goes in the pendulum. And my parents did this, so I'm literally going to do the opposite. My hope, and here is me hoping, purely hope, is that the reaction to everything we've seen is like a radical welcoming and loving and conversation,
Absolutely.
and let's truly be anti-war and let's truly eliminate. Yeah, that's my hope because I mean, what else are we
Yeah.
gonna do?
And I will say that it's that ladder of white supremacy because it wasn't just obviously one community. You saw women coming along as kind of honoring
Yeah.
men. You've got Pam Bondi, you have Christine Nome, and boy, they
Mm,
were spent pretty quick. I
mm,
mean, they were only useful to get in there, and then they were out. You had who was the one governor who was like a black governor. I'm so sorry, I forgot his
Todd,
name, but he
was it
was
South Carolina?
yes, he was supporting until, of course, Trump put out that tweet about the
mm.
Obamas, that video
Yeah,
with the Obama,
that's right.
and he was like, "That's the racist thing I've ever seen," and I'm like, "What?
Yeah,
Where were you for the past 12
yeah,
years?"
yeah,
And it was, every other. I mean, it was all the um minority communities. I hate the word minority because obviously
yeah.
black and brown is the majority globally, but in the United States, with
Yeah,
that
I hear you.
imaginary arbitrary construct border, it's considered minority. But it was weird. It was like, yeah, we're gonna trust them this time. And I mean, did it have to happen? Was it really just like you look at Tucker's I mean, I don't trust Tucker further than I can
Mm,
throw him, but,
mm,
Tucker
mm.
Carlson's turned, Candace Owens turned, Marjorie Taylor Greene's turned. Alex
Yeah.
Jones. I don't
Yeah.
trust these
Yeah.
people, but they're either they've seen the light and they know what's happening, and they legitimately just went too far for them. But I don't know. But it was like everybody kind of had this collective pathology.
Yeah.
Anybody who wanted to ring on that ladder of white supremacy and patriarchy was like willing to sell their soul for it. And it's like, okay, well
Well,
now
that's where
it's all falling apart.
and going back to scripture, the root of all evil is the love of money. The love of money is the root of all
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah.
And money is held in white supremacy and patriarchy. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's the system we live in. And so you want access to those funds, to those billions that they've been corruptibly stealing. You play the game and you act the part and you sell your soul. And so we have to be, and I always, whenever we're talking about the Trump administration and Christian nationalism, I have to personally, and now I'm speaking as a man, I have to intentionally, I'm going to call it out, I'm going to challenge it, and I'm also going to check. Where's the little Trump in here that wants to rule and that wants to, where's that little, you know,
Yeah.
douchebag patriarch that comes out every once in a while in my places of work. And, we've seen it, unfortunately, in some of the most liberal, progressive spaces, all that, the hunger for
Yeah.
money and the I have to be above and I have to rule. And so it's these old battles. It's these old demons that we've been
Yeah.
battling that need to be exercised, that need to be cast out. And so eh, I want to call it out. I want to be clear. I want to challenge it. And then I also always want to keep that self-awareness and where are you
That's so
participating in
good.
that crap?
Really, really good.
Because if it doesn't stop here, it, it'll never stop out there.
That's right. I
Yeah.
love that,
No, that's
Carlos,
so
because
good.
just as we are dealing with the things that we care about or that we hate in the world, we
Yeah.
we also have to continue to tend to the inner life, right? And
Yes.
Absolutely.
Have to.
sometimes we forget how to walk and chew gum, but that inner life work is
Mm,
still extremely important. This shows up for me when I think about folks who are waking up and coming out of MAGA or on the fence
mm,
about now, right? And I'm trying not to let that little Trump in me rise up, that exclusionary, um,
hmm
or that selfish nature, that angry nature, that you
Yeah.
know, um, we're gonna do us over here and we're gonna let y'all do what you do over there. I'm fighting against that a lot, right? Because this isn't just what people have said, sticks and stones might break our bones, but the words will never hurt us. This ain't that. The
hmm
77 million votes for Donald Trump has created real time harm
Yes.
to Black and brown folk. When I see this little baby, this little Hispanic baby with this little blue hat on, this little doggy hat, when I
That was
tell
brutal.
you that thing like laid me down for
Yeah.
days. When
Yeah.
I
Me
see
too.
that baby and I'm thinking about how these people's votes made that
Mm,
possible.
yeah.
These two white folks in Minnesota who got killed by
Wow.
ICE.
Yeah.
These votes have made
Yeah.
this possible,
Yeah.
and I need your help. I'm just gonna
Mm,
confess right here. I need some help.
mm,
I need some help with radical love and welcome right now,
mm.
because I understand that there's a longer arc here. There's a greater horizon of what we want to actually see the world be in the future, and what we're doing
Yeah.
now is seeding toward that in one way or the
Yeah.
other. Um, and I'm trying to find that grace in me, but I'm also challenged because I want to say, you can't just change up your mind and say, never mind. People are already
Mm,
hurt. And so
yeah.
Dead. People
where's
are already dead.
dead
Yeah.
Hmm.
now?
Girls are
Yeah.
pregnant in an all-girls teenage detention centers in the United States. How are they
Yeah.
getting pregnant?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Evil.
And so,
Evil.
there in my mind has to be a level of accountability. How,
Has to be.
how, Carlos?
don't know. I don't think there's an overall how, right? There are individual relationships that are worth fighting for in the midst of extreme separation of values.
Mm,
And there are other relationships that it was actually necessary to break and to never reconnect because of that difference of values. There is no umbrella solution. I have to choose just the slight bend towards grace and love and mending and hope. I have to choose that because I freaking remember when I was on the microphone preaching against my LGBTQIA friends, who I
yes.
now feel embarrassed and not just embarrassed for myself, the accountability of me having to say I'm sorry, of me having to now be more intentional in welcoming and accepting in inclusion, in defending and using my voice against homophobia than I was in the context of using the platform to say the thing that I knew my biggest people that gave tithes and offerings at the church wanted to hear about gay people, right? And so now my accountabilities, I have to do 10 times the work that I did now that I'm here. But I was there. I did
Yes.
think like that. I
Yes.
freaking, I fell for all those traps. I'm talking about the love of money. I stayed at my job in the church for a couple of years more than I really needed to, lack of integrity, because that was my fucking salary. And a
Yeah.
man will believe anything as long as his salary depends on it. And so I would preach stuff that I didn't believe in just because that's how I got paid.
Woo.
And
Yeah.
so I have to always be in this direction because when I was in this direction, there were people that had patience and grace and kindness, my wife included, my parents, so many friends, so many people who what I was saying was hurting them and made a
Yeah.
choice to say this relationship is worth having the uncomfortable conversations and waiting and whatever. And so it I have to. I'm not saying again, I'm not saying there's this overall let's just forgive and love and kumbaya hug each other. That would
Right. Right.
be
Right.
disingenuous, that would be unfair, that would be dangerous actually to put some of our most marginalized friends and neighbors that we know are in marginalized situations in that context. It's up to me now. It me toca a mí. It's up to me. Where are those spaces where I was the one behind and I needed to progress? Sometimes we use these terms progressive. It's like, how are you progressing even more towards liberation? How are you progressing more towards welcoming, towards inclusion? Like, actually, where is that journey to be called progressive? Where is that? I'm liberal. Okay. How am I liberally giving away love and
Right.
finances and time to serve those who are the
Yeah.
least served? And
Yeah.
so I just have to slightly always be like, check yourself,
Yes.
forgiveness, peace, love, joy, mending. It has to be the choice.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
the Jesus prayer, right? Lord Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Like
Yes.
that's helpful. Go ahead,
I
Malika.
will
Yeah.
just say that you two are so much better people than I am. Because I'm leaning into the rage. I'm leaning into the rage. And I know, we're doing this podcast and that's my only bit of mending and hope because I'm with you on like the things I've said and done when I was in that world that
Mm,
were so harmful and I
mm,
definitely want grace for that. But I also feel like we really, after the first administration, I don't know. I'm just, and I think it's part of it's just being a woman because it's like I was, taught to be, we're sugar and spice and everything nice. And then I will say I
yeah.
had a pretty feminist mother, so that was helpful.
Thank
Being
God for her.
really told to be quiet in those spaces and just having silenced my voice for 15 years in those spaces and having that feeling like this isn't right, this isn't right.
Mm,
So,
mm,
just allowing myself to feel the rage. And yeah, it does take me out. Like when they took Liam, I mean, I was out for days when I
mm,
wasn't just raging on social media. Just not
mm.
Right.
helpful.
Right.
I don't know what else to do sometimes. It's like you give
Mm.
money, you
Yeah, yeah,
pray,
yeah.
you do everything. I mean, after the election, I drove around Oklahoma City for 2 hours the next day because the night election, I was drinking like 2 bottles of red wine until 5 in the morning. But I would say a couple days later, I screamed for several hours
Mm,
just around the city just to kind of get it
Yeah.
out of my body. It was like,
mm,
I am trapped at how this happened again.
mm.
And I will say this about there was the richest man in the world, like, paying people $1 million
Yeah.
for
Yeah, yeah,
people's
yeah.
votes. There
Right.
was
Yeah.
some shady stuff that went
Of
down
course it
in
was. Of course there
Pennsylvania,
was.
so it was, like,
Yeah.
so much voter
Yeah.
suppression, and there
Yeah.
was a lot of people saying it doesn't matter, so it's like we understand, like, okay, the options to me were not perfect. Anyway, I get that, but, afterwards, seeing and what I will say,
Mm,
and this segues into my question for you, like, I knew that the Christian right was very racist towards Black people, like, I woke up from the first administration, but it was a little bit I mean, I was the animosity, the race, the vitriol towards,
mm,
um Latina, Hispanic, Indigenous,
mm,
communities was a shock to me, and, that brings me to the Super Bowl because I thought about you a
mm,
lot when the Super Bowl was
Yeah.
happening, and this bizarre I really found
mhm.
it bizarre, and I'm like, can I still have any bit of naivete? But I found the reaction to Bad Bunny so insane.
Yeah.
Like, how racist that was. I'm like, Bad Bunny's an American longer than I think Trump for sure his wife. You know what I mean? It's like, what in the hell?
Yeah.
What are your can you give us your thoughts on, like, that whole bizarre period?
Yeah, well, I mean, Puerto Ricans have been American citizens since 1908, and so it's true. There's so many of my white friends who my great grandparents were American citizens before their grandparents were, and so it's ridiculous. And it's simply because he's Latino, he's speaking Spanish, and not just that, he's not trying to present himself as a white
Yeah.
American making money.
Yeah.
And, he dated one of the Jenners, so we'll forgive him for that just the once. So
No more
he
Jenners.
dwelt in that. He dwelled in that a little bit, but so I'm in the town of Vega Baja. Bad Bunny's from the town of Vega Baja. I shop
So
for my food where 10 years ago he was a bagger, where he would shop where he would be bagging people's. I've met his parents. I've met some of his cousins has come to the nonprofit to do volunteer work. It, they we are in a community that knows him,
yeah.
and there's poverty, there's drug problems, there's incredible amount of crime, unfortunately. We serve a marginalized community, the elderly, and I can tell you about the individual, about Bad Bunny. I haven't met one person in his community that doesn't say he's so generous, he's so giving, he's done so much for us. And so you're talking about an American citizen who is officially the best-selling concert artist in the world for like the last two
Yeah,
years, and who's decent and generous and kind, and nobody can say anything about his personal life in that way. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just it was a racist response. And I love that he was intentional about celebrating who he was, making no
mhm,
apologies for it, and bending towards hope. His
Yes.
whole performance, he wasn't bending towards let me get them back, even though there were elements that were clearly you're wrong about this, about ICE, for example, and he was very clear about ICE out and all that sort of stuff. And yet the whole performance, the whole language, the whole music, it was just always bending towards hope, towards celebration, towards love. The most powerful thing, the only thing more powerful than hate is love, right? That last statement that was on that big billboard.
Yes. And
And
listen,
so, yeah,
somebody call us who, doesn't speak Spanish. I wish I did. My daughter's
yeah.
and her in like, Spanish too, and she swears she's fluent. She swears it.
Beautiful. We'll try her out over here. Bring her
Yes.
over,
I'm gonna have to bring her over.
please.
But I didn't know Bad Bunny before all this, to be honest.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
wasn't aware of him, and so this controversy really put him on the map for me personally.
It helped him, that's for sure.
But listen, by the time that show was over, I might not
Mm,
have understood, like, all the words, but I got the
mm,
meaning, got
Yeah,
the
yeah,
message.
absolutely.
Was a fan. I was like, "Okay, now this is a decent human being,"
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so, I was so encouraged because it was like the scripture that talks about, "Be not overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good," and I feel like
that's it, that's it.
that's exactly what he did, and it was just,
Beautiful.
it was just so powerful. I wanted to go back just for
Hmm,
quickly to your faith
yeah,
story. When you were talking about how you've had to have your own journey, right? With your own theology having to evolve.
mhm,
What took you there? What sparked the thing for you to come from anti-LGBTQ
mm,
to not just pro-LGBTQ, but neighbor
yeah,
and supporter and ally?
yeah.
What was the thing?
Jesus, and that's why I can't let it go.
Yes.
D I just can't let it go because it truly was, okay, let's forget the theology of heaven or hell, son of God or not. Let's just go straight up to the ethics, right? And I can use the ethics of Jesus compared to many other great leaders, male and female in the world. And there's so much in different religions that sounds similar about loving your neighbor, do unto others as you would want them to do to you. And so if I went every time I would go in the scriptures, and I intentionally, even while I was a pastor, I was like, I'm not going to read anything but the gospels. If I say I'm a Christian, then I have to like absorb Christ and his message and his flow. And then I got really silly and I was like, okay, if I can quantify the amount of time Jesus would actually spend amongst the poor, amongst the broken, amongst the hurting. And I was
Yep.
like, I'm not even close in terms of timing. How do I organize my week? It's not even close to how Jesus would organize his week in terms of who he's spending time with, how he's serving the other. And so I, the message of Jesus, the delving into the gospels, it was like it was so clear that it had so little to do with this personal morality and it had so much to do with who in my context is the most marginalized. That's where I'm going to stand. Who in my surrounding is the one that society is pushing to the side? That's where I'm going to be. And that's where I'm going to
Yeah.
serve. And I never in a million years did I think that I would, give my life to serving elderly people in Vega Baja, Puerto Rico. It's the most random, kind of conclusion of all the, 18 years of full time ministry, for example. And yet, my greatest joy is understanding in my context, these are the most marginalized, these are the most pushed to the side, the least talked about, the ones where the system and the people and the narrative, systems, people, and narrative are pushing down. That's where we're going to serve and love and create employment for them and bring the best meals for them and do whatever it is that we have to do in this is my context, right? And so in my context, this is where I get to do it. Props to Jesus, honestly. Like,
Oh, Jesus, I
good
know that.
news to the poor, good news to the oppressed. Who are the oppressed in my context? That's where I need to do good things, and that's where I need to love, and that's where I need to stand. And it's like, who cares about the other theology? Like, in presence,
Yeah.
this is where I belong.
So that's a really good question. Talk to us about Happy Givers, where you're at, what you're doing right now. Talk to us about your neighbors, anything you want to
Yeah,
share, story wise. I am still going to get there. I'm on the other hemisphere now, but I will. I'll visit.
we would love to have you guys. And I honestly, all these conversations we're having about the policies and the politics and it's so radically important. And I love to have them here, and I'm available anytime. But they're even better when we have these conversations while we're delivering lunches
Yeah.
to people that wouldn't have a lunch that day if we didn't deliver. It's wonderful, important conversation. I have conversations with church leaders, for example, that are having the right initiating point. They're like, we don't want to do like service ministries, missionary trips. We don't want to hurt the local community. I'm like, I'm so glad you're thinking like that you're questioning these systems. Come to Puerto Rico and let's keep talking while we're doing the work. because you can
Yeah.
fall to a point where you're trying to do things so right in your theological or progressive
Oof.
context that you end up doing nothing because you're trying to do
Yeah.
so perfect. I prefer
Yeah.
learning together as we're moving forward, learning
Yeah.
together as we're doing the work, learning together. Oh, we did it this way. Definitely shouldn't do it that way. Now we're learning how to not be hurtful, but to be helpful. And so, to cut the long story short, we have a social kitchen, we have a community farm. We just bought our second farm up in the mountains because we realize the more you go to rural areas, the further people are to access to good food, to access to medicine. And so, there's hundreds of elderly people right now. Our team is delivering more than 300 lunches directly to their homes. And every delivery comes with how you doing, how we can help. Yesterday, we were fixing the roof for an elder gentleman called Andresito. And Andresito was one of our first elderly men living by himself for many years. His daughter passed away from cancer, the only one that was available to be there with him. Unfortunately, out of drugs and alcohol problems within his family. And so we met him super thin, super lonely, and we started delivering lunches. And he kept saying, "But can I get involved? Like, I don't just want food. Thank you for the food. It's delicious, but I want something else." And the journey led us to, he's now one of our employees delivering lunches to other elderly people in the mountains. His heart is full of purpose. His belly's full of delicious plantains, but his heart is full of purpose and belonging. And now he's part of this family and this community. And so I can tell you so many stories of different Andresitos and Mario and Justina and so many of the elderly people that we're literally walking all the way to the end. I've had to do funerals. I have to be present at the moment of passing. And the greatest joy is to come with dignity and grace and bending always towards the side of hope and mending for them as individuals. And then that translates to the greater family, that translates to the community. I know it sounds cliche, but it's those little works of love. If so many of us are doing these little works of love, it turns into a hurricane of kindness, and we're experiencing it every day. And we love the work because it's just so, I'm here in the AC having this conversation and I love it. But I'm mostly at the farm. Like, I never thought I was a farmer. I'm farming. Um, and I get to not be on my phone, and I get to plant avocado trees that this administration will be done 10 times over, and that tree will still be giving avocados to the
Yeah,
community.
yeah,
And there's
Yes.
just
I love
something
that.
to that, right? To that
yeah.
hope of farming, of service, of just direct kindness. And of course, in that direct kindness, we realize, wait, there's these systems that need to be corrected, challenged, all of that. But we discover that the most when we're doing the actual work on the ground with the people that need it most. And then we can do the fights and then let the rage come, and let's use all that rage, Malika.
Yeah.
But it comes from that place of doing the work and then actually directing it towards the benefit of them and not for myself.
You know what I'm getting? I'm getting a theme today as you're talking with us, Carlos, and the theme for this for me is hope starts local. Hope
Mm.
Mm,
starts locally and spread.
100%.
You started this conversation, mentioning, your garden and your work in the community. And we're
Yeah.
talking about it in more detail right now. And I'm listening to the joy that you
Yeah.
speak about it with. And I've got the picture of the little elderly man who was then and
Mm,
lone and now how
mm,
full of purpose and helping to
mm.
feed people. And it
Yeah.
just reminds me that hope starts locally. We have to start
100%.
with where we are, who is in our proximity to touch, who we can encourage, who we can inspire, who we can
Yeah.
uplift and help. And that helps me because when I think about hope and on such a in such a micro way, that's that helps me not feel so daunted by the macro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Mhm.
Then I can trust. Okay, Carlos got the farm over there in Puerto Rico going. He's
Yeah.
doing his thing.
Yeah.
Malika's over here working hard on the men podcast. I'm working
Yeah.
alongside her with the podcast and doing what
Yeah.
I'm doing over here with Black Church. And
Yeah.
believing that all of these contributions are
Yes.
not the same path, but the same direction, like moving us
Mm.
Yes.
toward that far off horizon that we're seeding for the next generations. So, you know, your joy is contagious. Your joy is
Good.
contagious. And I'm always just so inspired every time I talk to you, and I love the work that you're doing with the elderly
Thank you.
over there. Thank you. Yeah.
We love doing
And
it. We love doing it.
I want to share a Carlos story real quick. So this was November of 2024. Of course, nothing big happened then. Just kidding. It was a few days before the election of Donald Trump the second time. His regime, I would say. But anyway, I was like, you had come to Oklahoma City. We had brought you in. You were kind of like,
Mm.
this is the last time I'm really doing a whole lot of traveling because I want to be home, want to be
And
with
it
my
was.
neighbors, my
It really
family.
was, Malika.
And, you wanted to be home. Yeah, it was. Okay, good. And
Yeah,
so,
it was.
um, and we were talking about land. You had said something like you had just told me because I'm like, I don't know why I'm in Oklahoma. I don't
Yeah.
feel at all connected or belonging. I've never felt that. And you really encouraged me to find the soil, the land that
Yes.
belongs under my feet. And I thought that,
Yes.
well, just long story short, I moved 6 or 7 months later to Europe, a city in Europe. I don't know why. It was, and there's where the Pentecostal
Beautiful.
comes in because there was some dreams and visions and just some things. But and it was actually that next day where I just woke up and it's like, oh, I really feel like I'm going to go there. And it
Mm.
helped that like a few days later, Donald Trump was elected president
Mhm. Mm.
again. But anyway,
Mm.
so I guess but during that conversation, you were also mentioning how you would, you know, and it ties into what Cece's saying about the local. It's that,
Mm.
it's the people,
Yeah.
um, your family, the people, but it's also the land. And
It
that's where I
really
think,
is.
we've really gotten so far off. And we and I say we as humanity, but really
Mm.
it's a system and ideology of extraction, of dominance of the land,
Yeah.
we'll just go with white supremacy, patriarchy, colonization, capitalism,
Yeah.
bridal,
Yeah.
like all of the things. But all
Yeah.
of that is like, we're at a point where the earth is becoming uninhabitable for
Mhm.
humanity.
Mm.
Our relationship with the land locally, the
Yeah.
soil under our feet is
Yes.
something we have to radically change our perspective into. How do we live in symbiosis? I don't know. That thought has stuck with me, like to have the land as companion,
Yes.
and like,
The
and
land
I'm
is
really trying to
companion.
do that. There's a park where I take Mr. Darcy, my dachshund, to, every day, and I say hi to the trees. Sorry, everybody, I'm
Good.
a big old weirdo, but
Do it.
like,
Do it.
I'm
The
like,
science
okay,
tells us
this
they
is the
love it.
companion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good,
Right.
because it's like,
Mm.
I mean, I feel like the wind blows and
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I'm delusional, but I don't care. I'm happy. So, talk to us a little bit about the land as companion because that was such a cool. I had never thought that before.
Well, thank you for that. It really was. I literally haven't that trips except vacation with family, and I don't have any trips booked. I'm doing only a few podcasts here and there, and it's not like I'm trying this thing of like, no, I love being here. The land is my companion. I feel like it's a friend. I drive up to the mountains, go to this new farm. We've planted more than 100 fruit trees. I'm taking my kids to do it, and I can see them. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna go into eternity. They might take their kids to eat those fruits. And so
Mm,
there's this like, it's not just the companion, it's a companion I'm building history with, that I'm building a story with. It's part of my narrative. And so part of what Bud Bunny was doing at the Super Bowl was almost like, here's my land, here's my people, my Puerto Rico,
yeah.
in California to the world. And so that honoring and that celebration, it just brings life because we are so connected that there's this good thing, right? We can have this podcast. The technologies has allowed us to connect to people all over the world, and yet it's disconnecting us to where we're actually sitting, and the air we're breathing, and trees that are feeding us. And so, to our old Pentecostals, that all of this stuff sounded demonic. Talking to trees, um, it's so
Oh yeah,
beautiful, and
they're thinking things.
I can tell you feel better over there than over here, right,
So
Malika? I can.
sad to hear.
I couldn't imagine this whole season you over there still. Um, and so it
I
really
eat
it gives
bread every day with no problems.
with
I'm
no
trying to say.
problem. Yes. And I eat plantains and avocados every day,
Mm,
local.
uh,
And so, and I get to share that with people that don't usually have access to it, even though they're surrounded
Yeah.
by it. And so
mm,
it's a beautiful privilege. The fact that every step that I take is in a place that I want to be there and it wants me to be there. That the land that we buy is not to take over from other people, but to serve the people right next to it. That when we use this concept of love your neighbor, they are my actual neighbors. I am
Yeah.
actually living next to them. And it's not this theological concept, but it's a lived reality. And so it
yeah,
just becomes much better when it's felt and touched and smelt. And it's not this elusive, thing, but that I'm
yeah,
here in Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, serving people from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico. And hopefully Bad Bunny will show up and give us $1 million.
yeah.
And pray with me and believe that will come. Amen.
Come on here, baby. Come on here. Let's pray about that. Carlos, as we wind down, I just want to say again, thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being our friend. Thank you
Thank
for
you
being a
guys.
light and a guide to us and to so many. How can
Mm.
people learn more and connect with Happy Givers?
Yeah, thehappygivers.com. We have a store because we believe in sustainability. I can say proudly that there's not one thing we've built with federal funding or grants from the government, that it's been through partners and shirts that we sell and mugs that we create and hot sauces that we produce there with our stuff from our farm, that we are completely self sustaining. And people at thehappygivers.com, they can shop, they can connect to us, they can plan to do trips. I have teams that come every month. Sometimes it's families. They want to do a trip and they want to see Puerto Rico and they also want to serve, and we'll do all that. We have churches that come, that don't. I wouldn't go to their church, and yet they end up coming and do
Right,
great work. And
right,
and we have these great connections. That doesn't mean I have to become them or they have to become us. And
right,
again, all that happens when we're actually doing something outside of our little selves. And so
100%.
we host teams and other organizations and great partners and people that give us tons of money and people that just give us $5 a month. And so it's all so beautiful and wonderful. And we've been able to build something that's real and that's sustainable and that is actually serving people in need. And
One of
I can say really I really sleep well at night. I feel like I go to
the
bed and I have so much purpose, and I like the sweat and the hard work. It's just very rewarding. And so I would love for all my friends to be part of it too.
okay. Malika's gonna get the last word and close us out. But just in case people are not connecting the dots here, you
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
some really let's say t-shirts that have gone viral. Like
Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
viral
Yeah.
really viral thing, you've had some messages, t-shirts that have just gone
Crazy.
viral. So I want to make sure that we're connecting the dots here. It
Yeah.
is like some folk about some of these slogans and things that they should connect with Happy Giver because
Yeah.
it
It
is
was. So in the first Trump administration, and even before the first Trump administration, as when he's coming down the escalator, I'm like, what do I have to say that's different to what he's saying? People over profit, love your neighbor, be kind. Jesus was a liberator of the oppressed, not a mascot for the
Yeah.
powerful. These are a lot of the statements that we sell in T-shirts and mugs. It's a way for people to both support us as a nonprofit doing the actual work on the ground and actually get to say something that they believe in. People shop there tons and give away the mugs and the stickers. We sell hundreds of thousands of stickers every year, which is wonderful. We did that statement that Bad Bunny put, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. We created some artwork around it. And, people knew Bad Bunny said that. And this is an organization in Bad Bunny's town feeding, elderly people. It's just this cycle of productivity, creativity, and the actual work. And so the happygivers.com, most nonprofits start with the nonprofit to serve people. And then how do we fund this? We were fortunate. It wasn't a great strategy. By mistake, we started the store. The store started doing really well. And then 100% of the profits goes to the nonprofit. And so we've been able to grow dramatically because people keep buying stickers. So thank you, everybody, for buying stickers.
I bought a lot of the stickers. One of the best stickers, I will say, is "We cannot bomb our way to peace."
Yes.
And so if you want that
Yes.
sticker, definitely go on the site. That's one of my favorites.
Thank you, Malika.
And you're going to be working on a Mend the World podcast sticker. Just kidding.
Let's make it happen. But I need you guys to come
Okay.
to Puerto Rico so we can, have
Okay.
a
Okay. Well,
productivity
don't twist your
session,
arm.
whiteboard.
Don't
It
twist your
needs to
arm.
be here.
Because
If it's
Cece
not
and I went
local,
to Iceland. We went to Iceland, and boy, did we love you, Iceland. You were amazing. But there was moments where we wish we were in Puerto Rico because it was cold. But
you're more
first of all,
than
I just want to
welcome.
say
More than welcome.
that Carlos, you were. I mean, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, I will say, going back, when I really had to leave my faith tradition as of the American Western Church.
Yeah.
It was spending time in the Gospels, right? And it was just like this just doesn't match, right?
No,
And
it doesn't.
so I feel like you match. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that in such a way that the theological, I mean, I have a master's in theology, so I'm not saying, I don't want that
Yeah.
degree to be useless, but theology is one thing, and it's completely like, it's useless. It's useless. I don't care what you think about Jesus.
Yep.
Are you
Mm-hmm.
are you embodied like Jesus? Are you in action? And so I just want to say that you are somebody who is embodied in the way of Jesus. And I cannot say how, like, deeper respect and care and love for you, your family, the Happy Givers, and of course, thanks for like giving me a heads up on Italy.
I
You
feel
didn't.
like I need
It
a
was the Holy
commission
Spirit.
in the terms of a visit. I feel like, yeah,
You're like,
something.
go on, get out of there. I was like, okay. I heard from the prophet. So,
Take it.
but we love you, and we,
Love you guys. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
you give us hope. You give me hope. I know you give Cece hope, and so we're in this, right? We're in this in Puerto Rico. We're in this in Washington D.C.
Yep.
and we're in this in other parts of outside of Turtle
Yep.
Island. We're in this.
Yep. Yep.
It may look really bad right now, but I know people are mending. As things are
Yes.
being fractured, we're mending, and
Yes.
so that
We are
gives me
mending.
hope. And you in the Happy Givers gives me hope. So thank you so
Thank you.
much for being a part of
We are
this.
mending. Thank you. Thank you
And
for having
Cece
me.
gives me hope, and I don't know, you guys, because there's not a lot out there. So I'm really grateful for you too. And I guess that's it. To everybody who's listening, we really hope that you will hit that subscribe button, like, share,
Yeah.
and find us on Instagram if you want to reach out, DM us. We are also on Facebook and X. Sorry, we are. We're excited about it, but we are. So anyway,
Come
we
on.
love you guys, and please stay in touch, and please go to Happy Givers and get a shirt, get some stickers, and be a part of what's happening in Puerto Rico. That is so amazing. Also, Benito, you date whoever you want. If you want to date another Jenner, you go for it.
That was perfect.
Okay, guys.
Finish right
Okay,
there.
we love you.
Perfect.
Bye, everybody.
Benito,
Thank
do
you,
whatever
guys.
you want.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.